now. So number 4 of homework 6, extend the program in exercise 1 to separate the positive and negative values of the 2D array into two separate 1D arrays. Save the two 1D arrays in the same output file.
All right, so for this, here's my matrix. I did it just a simple way, just so I could easily see it, and just alternated between the positive and negatives, just to make it easier for everything. Okay, so to start, we have our main here, and we're going to open 3 input files, which I have the input, which is going to be our matrix, our output for the positive, and then the output for our negative. This array 6, 6, this is going to store our matrix into the array. The positive and the negative are going to hold, obviously, the positive and negative values.
Wait, did you say before you're going to open 3 input files, or were you just saying you're just using 3 files?
Using 3 files. It's this
right.
1 input and then 2 outputs.
All right, I was going to say 3 input files is a bit intense.
You know. Here we're checking it. We're opening the input, which is our matrix, and then if it's obviously null, actually have. I gotta get rid of that. This is because of the exits and the input file functions. We're opening our 3 input file and our 2 output files to check, make sure that they're all good and that there's no errors. This for loop here, since it's a 6 by 6 array, we're gonna have to go from 0 to 6 or 0 to 5 technically, because arrays start at 0, and we're gonna scan in our integer values from our matrix here and store them into the array. And then this right here, you don't need this, but I did this just to print it out so I can make sure that I was inputting the array properly and you could see the actual matrix, and helps you to visualize what's happening. And then this right here is where we do most of the actual computing. So again, you see in all of these, we're going from 0 to 5, or 0 to less than 6. And here we say if it's greater than or equal to 0, we're going to put it into our positive array, which we created up here. And we're going to store that value of the array into positive. And we're going to add a counter and increment it once. And we have a counter for both positive and negative. Also, since I did greater than, since I'm at this point, I'm considering 0 to be a positive number, just for simplicity, I can just use an else, and then anything besides this is going to be negative, so I can increment the negative and put that value into the negative array. And then right here, the reason I used K and I used L is because for these for loops, to print it and print it to the output file, we're starting at 0 and then going to the value of these counters. So this will be 0 to K for the positives, and then this will be 0 to L for the negatives. And here you don't need the prints. I just did it to help me visualize and see that it was actually working properly. But this here prints out to the output file for positives, out P, and then this right here is going to print out to the output file of negatives, out N, and then I'm closing them all, and this is just ending the program here. And I can show you. This is my matrix, right? Like I said, it's alternating. And then if I open up positives and first let me do that, I'll run that. But if I open up positives and negatives, you could see that these lines, right, this corresponds to positives, it matches with this. And then this corresponds to negatives, and it matches with this. And then if you want to compare the matrices, you can see that they match.
All right, can you go back to the code real quick? So can you scroll up? You used what's it called for the output? You made sure to use W because it's writing them, right, and not reading it.
Yeah, for the input file, you're going to use R because you can only read to it, and then the output file you use W because you want to write to it. This is where input output. That's the only point where they really differ. It's this right here because this means writing.
Okay. And then second question, why did he have positive and then in the brackets 32 and negative in the brackets 32 again?
The reason I did that, if you really want to be correct, which I should have changed originally, it should be 36 because in the matrix, since it's a 6 by 6, the max amount of numbers it can be is 36.
Okay.
So if somebody wanted to, they could put all positive numbers and all negative numbers. And if I made this value too small, then it wouldn't be able to store all of them. So I made it 30, should have made it 36 originally, but I put 32.
So essentially it's going to store all the positive and negatives. And in case it was actually all positive, it would be 36. I got you.
Yeah.
Where would it go if it was 0?
I put it to greater than or equal to 0. So it would go into my positive.
Okay.
Since
All
he
right,
didn't say
cool.
this, he didn't say to specify whether 0 is like its own value or not. I just included it in positive.
But if you wanted to, you could have just done if array ij is equal to 0, then store it in 0, right?
Yeah, I would just have to create another, like up here, I would just say 0 of 36, and then I would use that.
All right. And this is only for integer numbers, right?
Yeah. If I wanted to use floats, I would just change this.
You just change it to float, right?
And then change all these %Ds to %X, and then it would be fine.
All right.
Anything else?
What's it called? Scroll down a little. All right. In line 46, what was significant about j being equal to 5?
So every time that, so this is, let me actually do this. So anytime that j is 5, it means that we reach to the end of the first line of the matrix because this is equal to our rows and this is our columns. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then at 5, we're going to print the enter so that I can print out the next line.
Okay, yeah. I forgot it started with 0 and it goes all the way. All right.
Yeah.
And a print \n is just to get the new line for the array, right?
Yeah, that just is going to go to the next line so that I can, like I said, if I didn't have that, it would just print out in a line, kind of like this. And it's a lot easier to visualize how what your matrix looks like if you actually print it according to, how it should be. So that's why I put the enters there.
All right. Sounds good.
Anything else? Or
Not that I can think of.
all right.
Can you just go down real quick?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, I just wanted to visualize it again. I think it's all good.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording here then.